Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're located, and welcome to Faith, Lies, and Confusion. I am Godless Reggie, and this is NJ. How are you today, NJ?
I'm fabulous as always. Coffee, broccoli, me, beautiful combination.
Good, good. I think I want to make me another pot of coffee. I had one already, but I want some more. Mine's gone. Got plenty of broccoli, but I need some more coffee. So, today's episode is titled The History of the Moors to the Moorish Americans. Last week, um, I took a look at the historicity of the Moors, the original Moors that came from the Martitian, Morocco, Northern African area. Learned a lot about them. One thing that I did not know that basically they were mercenaries. I knew that they existed, but I'm glad I got a chance to learn about some of the things that they did and their traditions and the reason why I personally feel that people aspire to be Moors. I think when you're lost or when you are looked down upon on society, you always try to grasp toward a hero. And to me, I can see why people would do that, especially if it's that's their faith, right? I would at least want to be correlated with that if I believed in that religion per se. I could see myself becoming a Moor. I'm not a believer, but it makes sense to me.
The Moors will save us. Sky Daddy will save us. Zeus will save us. Who was before Zeus? I forget. There's always somebody.
Odin, right?
Odin. Was Odin? Yeah, Odin was before Zeus. Uh, Odin always defers to the horse. So maybe at the end of the day, we should all be worshiping the horse. No, we run them off the edges of cliffs because population control.
Right. So, as I always tell people, when I created this show, I made it for educational purposes, um, and I'm glad that I've got a chance to, study these things and know what they're about. Again, I'm not a believer, so none of this I actually believe. I look at it from a lens of mythology. Um, that's what it is, truthfully. But that's the lens I look at it now. So I don't try to, me personally, I don't try to judge one versus the other because in reality, if we're talking about truthfulness or if we're talking about something that looks ridiculous, no matter what religion it is, there's always that aspect of it. And to me, one isn't greater than the other. They all are crazy. You know what I mean? And
Every
people,
last one of them.
mhm. And
Oh,
people,
they're teaching a new one online right now.
what's it called?
What is it? The mommy Walters, the
Oh,
the
mommy Watson.
seers. Yeah, the what was it? The Sibyls. The Sibyls. Yes, there's a book about it. The Sibyls.
Well, with mommy Watson, I partially discussed it with you before. It's one of my favorite ones. To my last point, because again, I'm looking at all of this shit through the same lens, right? I'm looking at it as all as mythology. Like, okay, they're just different pantheons, right? I particularly like the mommy Watson one. Why not? Especially if we're going off of what I've heard from Nigerians, because you have the god that's the mommy watcher, and you also have it. I can't think of the right word to use, but it's kind of like a joke almost because they don't believe it, because Nigerians right now mostly are either Christian or Muslim, depending on what part of Nigeria they're from. So, from my understanding, a lot of men, and this is misogyny 101 right here, but a lot of men will refer to particular women or their problems that they have in life as, oh, that's mommy water. Oh my God, I can't pay my rent. Oh, it's mommy water fault. Oh, she's so pretty. That's a mommy water, right? But when the person was telling me and was breaking it down to me and explaining to me, like who mommy water was and the mythology in it and the joking part about it, I was explaining to him like, don't let these men fool you. That's what they like. Don't let them fool you. I said they like it. I give you a perfect comparison. She's like, what do you mean? I said, okay, so the men over there are very misogynistic, right? She's like, yeah. I said, don't let them fool you and let them act like they don't like strippers and hoes and shit like that. I said, don't let them fool you. I said they do. I said they just don't want you to know about it. I said they just don't want that to be their main girlfriend.
Right.
I said, but
Right.
on the side, you think he ain't gonna do that? Why you think that these people are in business? Because that's what they like. I said the only difference between me and them is just I'm gonna admit it to you.
Orphanages and nunneries would not exist without the side bitch. One of them, two of them, five of them, doesn't matter. But orphanages and nunneries do not work without the hoes.
They need a source. They definitely need a source, and that's a factual statement. A very, very, very factual statement. But yeah, we're getting off topic here a whole lot. So this week, what I wanted to talk about when in reference to the Moors is the Moorish Americans, right? Um, my first introduction to that word was with the Moorish Americans. I was not aware in the beginning because I've maybe only been aware of them period for maybe 10 years. Um, my first introduction again was to the Moorish Americans, right? So a brother of a friend of mine, he is a Moorish American. He has an ID card. He does not have a social security number. He feels as if he's a citizen of Morocco. That kind of correlates with my misunderstanding of the word Moor as well. Even though, like I spoke last week, it doesn't really discredit that, but it doesn't mean that. But that was kind of how my confusion started. When he first was talking to me about it, this person, it sounded ridiculous. And at that time, I was Christian, so I was very biased, um, in my opinion, because if you grow up Christian, you're kind of taught not to associate yourself with these people. Don't listen to these people. These people are the devil. Blah blah blah. They're communists. As I started getting a little bit older, I started really listening to some of the stuff that Louis Farrakhan was talking about. And growing up, even though he's not a more, um, growing up, like I said, I was taught to not listen to anything he said. But then when I started really thinking about some of the stuff he was saying, a lot of it was true, right? A lot of
Yeah,
when it
I
came,
don't have a problem with what he says. I have a problem with the whole nation of Islam and that issue with age restrictions and consent. It's too fine of a line, even in 2025.
are you talking about with as far as women?
Yes.
Mm. So I'm not sure if they
And
have.
it's real hard to put one with the documentation that you just said on child support.
Mm, okay, I get what you're saying, right? Because they are sovereign citizens or whatever. And this particular individual that I'm referencing, he's a sovereign citizen. Um, some of the stuff that the guy was telling me about sounded kind of interesting, but not interesting enough for me to become a member or anything like that. So I think today I would like to go over it and hear from their point of view, and what their beliefs are exactly, because technically I'm guessing. So, as we say here in America, I like to hear from the horse's mouth. I'm gonna do a little bit of reading and play videos as always. So,
I'm learning something new today. We asking the horse. I can't wait to hear what the horse got to say.
right. So I'm gonna read first before I go directly to the source. Okay, now this is via Wikipedia. The Moorish Science Temple of America is an American national and religious organization founded by Noble Drew Ali, born as Timothy Drew in the 20th, excuse me, in the early 20th century. He based it on the premise that African Americans are descendants of the Moabites and thus are Moorish by nationality and Islamic by faith. Ali put together elements of major traditions to develop a message of personal transformation through historical education, racial pride, and spiritual uplift. His doctrine was also intended to provide African Americans with a sense of identity in the world and to promote civic involvement. One primary tenet of the Moorish Science Temple is the belief that African Americans are of Moorish descent, specifically from the Moroccan Empire. According to Ali, this area included other countries around Northwest Africa. To join the movement, individuals had to proclaim their Moorish nationality. They were given nationality cards. In religious texts, adherents refer to themselves racially as Asiatics. As the Middle East is also known as Western Asia, adherents of the movement are known as Moorish American Muslims and are called Moorish scientists in some circles. I'm gonna stop right there. Um, that part I'm not feeling. Let me go back to what I said. Mm, the part where it says to join the movement, individuals had to proclaim their Moorish nationality. They were given nationality cards and religious texts. Adherents to refer to themselves racially as Asiatics, as the Middle East is also Western Asian, Western Asia. Excuse me. That's just flat out a fucking lie. Um, we know historically, genetically, however you want to look at it, you know that we were not captured from that area. So for you to say that you're Asiatic is not true. Not true at all. That's a lie. But it's typical, in my opinion. And the reason why it's typical is because if you proclaim to be Israelite, it's the same fucking thing. It's the same thing. We're talking about the same area. We're talking about the same tectonic plate. We're talking about same landmass and everything. So is no different in my opinion. So it's typical. It's a lie, and it goes back to what I said at the beginning of the show, that people just grasp toward this because they're so ashamed of their true history. Um, I think if in our history as Americans, Black Americans, I think if they told more stories of the rebellions, which there were thousands of them, um, I think people would take more pride in being what they really are. How you feeling, Jay?
You know what? It always amazes me that in these regions, they believe for some reason that whatever side they pick, whatever religion or deity or force, whatever they pick, it was always for tax purposes, not for bedroom purposes. I don't know why they think that this mixture of people was very specific to the religion when the religion was very specific to your tax bracket.
Exactly. From watching this, from thinking about last week's episode, um, you're 100% correct. It really didn't make no difference, and I could prove that based off. Okay, well, some had racially mixed Moors versus some that were African. They still mixed. We had preference here, preference there. They didn't give a fuck. You was all mercenaries slash slaves, whatever. Listen, you were hired, whatever you want to call yourself. They had no preference. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Let's go to the regions that believed in concubines and harems and all of that stuff. However you word it, it's the
Right.
same thing. There's one dude, and people give him gifts of women, and he dibbles and dabbles. Sometimes one gets knocked up, and they are exalted as special because they got knocked up by this owner dude. Same thing. Just a whole bunch of different women get gifted to this one man, and he dibbles and dabbles and sees what happens. Sometimes he would get really fond of one or two of them, and they would really start feeling themselves. And then, the child murders would begin. I want my son to rule. I want to be the head bitch in
Hmm.
charge. It's not a good history. I don't care how much they want to exalt it as we should rule because we have this kind of history. It- no, when you dig down in it, no, we don't. No, we don't want to go back to that way of doing things either.
You know, one story that I've never heard in any religious fashion, or I would even say in any history of colonization or like conquering other nations or anything like that. I never heard a story of the conqueror saying that this particular group of concubine slaves, whatever it may be, and I'm referring to women, right? Whatever his gifts, to your point, was, I've never heard of him turning one down or be like, all right, you know what, I didn't really want this black one, but you know what, that's all you had, so I'm gonna go ahead and
Right?
take her. You never hear that story.
Never, ever, ever, never, ever, never, ever.
Even when you bring it all the way to the United States, when you talk about chattel slavery, they still was fucking them. They didn't care.
Just
I
like
would.
when they cleaned out the jails and the whorehouses and shipped them to Australia and the Americas to boost numbers. Even then, they didn't care.
One would even
Send
go.
me,
Sorry,
go
go ahead.
ahead. I was gonna say, like, send me your disease. We will take them all. Let it spread everywhere.
One would even say that a lot of the slaves, excuse me, the slave owners, the preference would have been the slaves a lot of time. We seen they've done a study, even though this is separate and doesn't have anything to do with it anyway. But they did a study on the Nazi soldiers, and most of them, their sexual preference was a black person. Most of them.
Yep, 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 yep. Lots of mixtures left in the nunneries and orphanages after
Hmm.
that period of time. Whole bunch of them. They didn't know where to send them. Didn't know where to ship them because everybody was checking off list of specifications by that point. We only want them if they look like this.
Hmm. Exactly. I'm gonna read a little bit more, and then I'm gonna play a video again, from their point of view. Okay, the Moorish Science Temple of America was incorporated under the Illinois Religious Corporation Act 805 ILS C 101. I mean, excuse me, 110. Timothy Drew, known to its member as Prophet Drew Ali, founded the Moorish Science Temple of America in 1913 in Newark, New Jersey, a booming industrial city. After some difficulties, Ali moved to Chicago, establishing a center there as well as temples in other major cities. The movement expanded rapidly during the 1920s. The quick expansion of the Moorish Science Temple arose in large part from the search for identity and context among Black Americans at the time of the Great Migration to the northern cities, as they were becoming an urbanized people. Competing factions developed among the congregations and leaders, especially after the death of the charismatic Ali. Three independent organizations developed from the ferment: the founding of the Nation of Islam by Wallace Farad Muhammad in 1930 also created competition for members. In the 1930s, membership was estimated at 30,000, with one third in Chicago. During the post-war years, the Moorish Science Temple of America continued to increase its membership, well, excuse me, in membership, albeit at a slower rate. So that's one thing that I've just been educated on. Um, I thought that this was, a little bit newer of a religion. Um, what I'm saying that I'm being educated on is because I always thought that all the way back to like slavery that everybody was super de duper Christian that was black, and that's not necessarily true. It's not true. Not true. Not true.
Not until they took them kids away from the mamas and gave them that damn book. Or should I say, gave them a preacher with with a a better version of the book for the task at hand. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, even though you kind of like running from one right back to another, I don't know, maybe it's a little bit refreshing to know that people have walked away from Christianity. Um, I don't think that you went far; you went right back to it, but um, it's
They
just good
did.
to know.
They they'll leave Christianity and grasp to another, and then they'll find the lies in that, and they'll grasp to another, and then they find the coincidences to the lies in that, and they start running out of things to grasp, and then it slowly but surely dawns on them. I've wasted a lot of
Ex-
time. I should have been having brunch with bottomless mimosas and said fuck it. When I felt
Right.
that pang of lust when I looked across the room, I should have said, fuck it, let's try it.
I wonder how much the average person that's religious wastes in a lifetime on religion, and that
Woo!
includes prayer, revival, Bible study,
No
church.
regrets. No regrets. No regrets. They couldn't get me to invest nothing, man. If I had a better offer on a Sunday for bottomless mimosas and breakfast, best believe that my husband was mad because I was not in church that Sunday.
Oh man, it's a pretty good scheme.
Where is the deaconess? Deacon? Yeah, she out with her mama and her sister, I think.
They probably was talking all kind of stuff about you too, all kind of stuff.
Oh man, to this day they still telling them stories. Every time the kids go around them, here they go. They got to tell a story about their mama, and eventually the kids will mention it to me, and I just shake my head. I'll be like rent free in somebody's head for no reason.
I just would tell them I was deconstructing. Hey, what can you do? That's the
Oh,
truth.
oh, the first Sunday of communion, and I passed that plate right on past me and my children. Oh, they about passed out. They about passed out right there on the floor. What? What? What?
Why did you even go to church that day?
Cause you have to show a solidified unit by having the mother, the father, and the children in the pews. They can't sit together, but they gotta be in the pew.
Wait a minute. Is your ex still alive?
Yes, yes.
That nigga know you ain't have no damn money. Why he ain't give you a couple dollars?
I didn't mean that plate. I meant the communion crackers and the drinking of the
Oh yeah,
wine.
yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, okay,
Now,
okay,
when that
okay.
other plate came around, I passed that one by too because I paid by check because I wanted my tax write off on all that shit.
That's my bad. Not exercising active listening skills. I'm over here maybe too much broccoli. Well, now I'm starting to wonder why the hell did you pass the plate?
I, I, cause they said body and wine. Wait a minute, I gotta come to church and have Welch's grape juice because I saw y'all pouring it downstairs before service, so I know it's Welch's grape juice. But I
Uh,
can't go have bottomless mimosas with my mama and my sister too many Sundays because y'all be making the deacon think something nefarious. Mm-mm. I ain't drinking and eating of the body with y'all. Get out my face.
right. Don't nobody want them damn crackers anyway.
Mm-mm. Stale ass bitches.
Right. Could have made him Graham. That would have been cool.
Woo! Teddy Grahams. That would have been the end all be all right there.
I would have asked for seconds. Let me play this video. I need to use the restroom too.
The thing I like about this neighborhood is every single house seems to have its own little bit of charm. Just being a single woman trying to compete with a lot of these couples, I lost out on about 13 houses before I came across this one. When I walked in the door, I was like, this is my house. So whatever I can do to get it, I'm going to get it. You guys, I'm not even kidding. This is the literal SWAT team that we called.
Shanetta Little was finalizing construction plans on her first home when a stranger changed the locks and told her that the house she bought was actually his.
They call themselves Moors. They basically say that they have ancestral rights due to a lot of treaties and tribunal law, that they have rights to the land here.
So you buy this place, you have this amazing vision for it, and all of a sudden you get a letter?
Yes, I got 2 letters, actually. The first one I got from Jaleel Hugh L. There were like seals and fingerprints and signatures basically saying that my home was on someone else's ancestral lands. I ignored it the first time, and they sent me another letter saying because I didn't respond, now we own this house. The third time was basically when all shit hit the fan. So they sawed off the locks, put their own locks on. He is now occupying the home.
How did they get him out of the house?
Oh, they busted the door down and they basically dragged him out. And it was really scary. Like, you know, I applied for a gun license. I got pepper spray, you know, knives.
Wow.
It was really, really traumatizing.
Police officers still reeling from a deadly attack. 3 officers were shot and killed.
The manhunt is on for this man, a career criminal considered very armed and very dangerous.
In recent years, isolated and random incidents of violence, fraud, burglary, and squatting committed by Moorish extremists have put Moors on the radar of law enforcement nationwide.
A Newark home taken over by an alleged extremist group that not only changed the locks, but actually claimed ownership over the property.
The man who occupied Shanetta's home was never charged and still maintains the land belongs to him. We did our best to speak with him, but he demanded to be paid. So that interview didn't happen. But we did find a video he posted about the incident online.
This is actually a claim on not the house itself, it's actually the land. It just so happened that the house is on top of it. If she did not come up so belligerent and so angry and so aggressive, we would have sat her down, explained to her what's going on.
So what is going on? Historically, Moors are renowned as an incredibly powerful and influential group of North Africans. They once controlled an empire that included modern-day West Sahara, Algeria, Tunisia, and Spain. But many Moors believe that the Moroccan Empire expanded all the way to the Americas, making all Black people ultimately indigenous to an America that predates the United States altogether. For most of the 1 million Moors across America today, that's just their origin story. Many attend one of the official Moorish science temples and peacefully study their own Quran. But for others, it's more than just a religion. Their indigenous identity means land rights, citizenship, and living under U.S. laws are all called into question.
Why is that not the first thing?
I just had to pause it right there because how can you say that you're indigenous and say that you're North African simultaneously?
Right.
That doesn't correlate with reality.
Dude, right. Going to have claim over land that was occupied before you got here. And I'm going to give them this. They're good with some paperwork. They will make some paperwork up. You saw it, right, with the seals and shit on it.
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't respond. So now we own your land. We're going to come over here and put some locks on it. What the? Wait a a minute. How you not get charged after you done shot at 3 cops? Didn't they say he shot at 3 cops?
These are them is different stories.
Oh, okay. Woo.
Yeah,
Okay.
them is different stories.
Woo,
I
my
still don't
good.
I still don't see how he wasn't arrested right then and there at that house. The laws are different in each state clearly, but if I was her, phew, I would have laid him the fuck out. The first time he would have came to my motherfucking house, and especially in this state, Ohio, you come into somebody onto my property
Cause
one time, and they tell you not to
didn't he
do it again.
say he said he had rights to the land, not the house, but he was in the house, which meant she had rights to the house. Shooting. I'm sorry, did I say that out
That's what I'm
loud? I
saying.
ain't
That's
mean
what I'm
to.
saying. I would have let him the fuck out. And I tell you, there's more places he wouldn't have tried that at. Florida, you man, them motherfuckers will play duck, duck, goose with y'all motherfuckers down that bitch. Every day of the week, they'll be like, listen, okay, every Wednesday at 5 o'clock, we're gonna shoot him more. And we'll get away with it. Is you
Yep.
crazy?
Yep. 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 But you notice that woman ain't never had no man by her side, not a brother, not an uncle, nobody. So in their mind, she was an easy mark. I would have easy marked his ass. I really would have, because I don't.
Man, listen, I wouldn't have missed neither. You know what I would have aimed at? That fucking fez.
Where did that fez come from? Where do they all wear them things?
Listen, remember I was telling you about the person who put me up on game? I keep telling you about this girl. Listen, she's smart as a motherfucker. Guess what she told me? And it correlates with the truth as well. She was arguing with this dude, right? Talking about that fed shit. That shit started with them putting them on monkeys' heads. And think
And
about it.
so,
Think
wait a
about it. The little
minute.
tambourine playing
They
one, right?
looked at the monkey. They looked at the monkey and said, "Yeah, we want that same hat."
Yeah. They slaves. That's where it comes from. It comes from monkeys. Sad, right?
That's right. I was going to show you this website so you can see where they're getting the information about the slaves coming over on ships. Where is that? Remember, roller skate, used books. Keep going. I'm going to find it in a minute and put it in the chat.
Yeah, I'm looking up something real quick. Okay. I'm gonna play this video. Go finish playing it.
Thing you want to do, realign yourself with your ancestry, realign yourself with the great God Allah, realign yourself with your birthright and your culture.
So I want you to write this down so that for anyone who thinks they can challenge this information, it's available. And all scholars know this stuff.
Look up and be more enlightened to what's out there.
There are many independent, nonviolent Moorish organizations across the U.S. who believe they were colonized and that state laws shouldn't apply to them. One of them is the Rise of the Moors.
Disruptive and combative. They're all members of the Moors, an anti-government sovereign citizen movement.
This is a group that does not believe it needs to follow the law.
Jaleesa and her husband are founding members of this Rhode Island-based group who believe that the state doesn't have jurisdiction over them.
You all have been called sovereign. You all have been called anti-government. Do any of those terms ring true?
No, I think people like a good villain. And I think that it's really a lack of understanding of what we're doing.
What are the charges? What am I being arrested for?
Last summer, 11 members, including Jaleesa's husband, Jamal, were arrested while en route to a militia training and camping trip. None of them could produce government driver's licenses or gun permits for their weapons.
Help me understand you all's relationship with the United States of America.
We, Moors, don't have anything to do with United States government because we don't belong. We belong to the Moroccan Empire. We want to have our own separate nation, our own separate government, hospitals, towns, schools, daycares, our own police. You know, we're getting our rights violated left and right on the streets constantly. Black History Month. What do they show on TV or in school? It's always so Black people getting the hose. getting mauled by dogs. It's nothing uplifting at all. It's never look.
What were you saying, AJ?
Because she's black. What the hell is she talking about? Where's the hoses in 2025? Where's the dogs in 2025? Where are they? Because I would like to see that footage. I really would.
My my
Are
thing
our
is
dogs
if you
not?
belong,
Our dogs are now robots that you can defeat with some spray paint. Like it's not the same, baby. It's not the same. And how you gonna come here talk about you don't have nothing to do with the United States government when that government that you not fucking with wouldn't exist had somebody over there across the pond not giving them permission to exist. But now your defense is you not gonna fight to kick them out, put them back in their place. You just over here grabbing up land, saying we own it, and don't give a fuck about the indigenous who really did own it, who really did get slaughtered for that land to be stolen, and 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 you want to be held at a different caliber, cause why? You experience racism against the color of your skin. They didn't care that you were a Moor. They didn't care if you was Christian. They didn't care. I'm sorry.
exactly.
I'm done with my soapbox now. I'm done with my soapbox.
She doesn't make any sense. Um, that part of their mission is senseless. You cannot claim to be a part of the Moroccan Empire and then think that you're just supposed to have land. Go over there. If you're a part of the Moroccan Empire, go over there because clearly the Moroccan Empire didn't win anything over here. We can debate all day whether or not if they came here or not, if they had settlers here or not. We can debate that until the cows come home.
What
Clearly,
they want is the right to work here, commerce here, and send the money over there to Morocco. That's what they want the permission to do. They don't want to have to deal with the U.S. bank.
and I get that, but my thing is this: is if your claim is that they came here and then were settlers here, that's fine, right? There was settlers from all portions of the world that came here,
Agreed.
primarily from Eastern European countries, right? None of those countries can make a claim to rights or land on the soil here. So what makes you think that 400, 500, 600, however many years later, that just because you feel that some settlers came here, that you deserve land in your own rule? When to your point, NJ, that the people that are native to here only have so much. Now, I'm not going to say that some of these people do not have casinos, haven't been given land, and things like that, because some of them have, right? Also, some of them are tax exempt too. But I'm not going to pretend like that has anything to do with, to your other point, them being slaughtered. That you'll never be able to repay them for it. You'll never be able to repay them for it. So I just don't see how that correlates with reality, even by your own logic. I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense.
And the ones that were given land on reservations and tax exempt and have the casinos on their land. Let's remember that most of them are primarily, with few exceptions, to marry them in for more land. Those are the $5 Indians.
Hmm. That's true. I
Just
think
saying.
I would go ahead and go out on a limb and say that all of the East Coast Indian claims, and I'm saying as far out to as maybe Louisiana in the South, all the way up to like maybe the Illinois area, they all have some $5 Indian in them. They all do. Um, Now the reservation ones that have it, that have the excuse me, the ones that have the casinos and shit, I agree with you. They have they're definitely $5 Indians, but I would say that they do have native blood in them. Now,
Right. Because you couldn't get your $5 certificate without proving some blood somewhere.
right, but
Yeah.
when we
Even if
say
you had to marry one.
Right, but when we talk about in slang terms as a $5 Indians, I'm talking about not real. I'm talking about not real. So when I say $5 Indian, the ones that are real imposters, Chickasaw, Cherokee, Blackfeet. Well, maybe I take the Blackfeet, scratch the Blackfeet. What's the one from Florida? Seminole,
Oh,
Seminole for sure,
Seminole all day
for,
long.
for sure, for sure. Them three, all the ones that's from the East Coast and the Southeast, they all fake. Every last one of them. And I would test and argue that they have any native blood in them, except for 1 or 2, 3% that everybody got just from being American. You know what I mean? But yeah, I don't think that they real. Now the West Coast ones, oh yeah, Mexicans, oh yeah, definitely. I would say that they're definitely the real thing.
Well, I'm a little triggered because I'm East Coast, and I know my mama and grandmama is real, and we not $5.
This what I'm saying when it comes to $5, right? Okay, so all right, if you're an American citizen, right, and you've been
Hmm.
your ancestry traced back 400 or 500 years, because not all of us, not all of our ancestry trace back that far. You got a lot of people here that are white, and a lot of them they'll tell you, "Oh, I'm Irish, I'm Italian," because they can trace their shit to when they came from over here, right?
Hmm.
You also have a lot of black people that, well, all of us, if you really dig deep enough, I'm pretty sure you're gonna find a Caribbean, right? But a lot of those records are hard. But you do have a big population of black people in the United States that can easily trace their ancestry to the Caribbean, right? Now,
Hmm.
if you're a person like myself who only can trace their ancestry to the slaves, right? That's as far as I can get, right? I did have a great grandmother. Her name was Ida Lee Davis. She died when she was 101 in 1990, 91, 92. I can't remember, right? Now, her grandparents were slaves. So I could trace that. That's the Eastern Star shit. We've talked about them several times. Now I can trace it that far. Now, their claims are we got Indian in our family. So you know how that shit go, right? What I'm saying is if your ancestry is similar to how I just broke mine down, that more than likely you're gonna have some trace of Native American in you. You're going to. Just by the fucking odds. Okay, with your great grandparents, how many of them is it? Like 32 or 64? If one of them
Yeah.
is full blooded native, okay, you may be 1/64th native. I'm not denying that. But what I am also saying is that the average black American citizen, the average, is a very, very low percentage. There are some that are, but most of it, it's just myths. Like mine, okay, when I trace mine, you know what I run into? White people.
Ooh.
Hmm.
Ooh.
And I think most people will too. They just embarrassed to say it.
All right. There's a database I sent you for the slave voyages to America database. They got it done and it updates often. And you might find some interesting stuff on there. Don't
Mm.
ask me how it works because I just click around until I get the information that I was looking for. And I'm gonna go take a potty break.
Okay, I'm gonna play the video while you're going.
Look at what you were, look at what you can be. It's always like, this is what you are, and this is what you're always going to continue to be. It's a form of propaganda and brainwashing.
According to Jaleesa, the perfect storm of civil unrest, police violence, and systemic racism are attracting new members. People who are sick and tired of the status quo and frustrated at the treatment of people who look like them. What is it exactly that you all want?
Freedom. to not be oppressed, to not have life so hard to live, to just come together and establish our actual own government and our own everything.
Until then, Moors and non-Moors live side by side, sharing taxpayer-funded public resources. But in an effort to increase economic mobility and establish precedent for autonomy, Moorish nationals are leveraging lawsuits to further their agenda. These goals are enough to classify them as anti-government by the likes of the Anti-Defamation League and law enforcement.
This stuff represents a couple of years of just collecting and gathering, and you can be knee-deep in paperwork quickly.
Called paper terrorism by those on the receiving end, Moorish nationals overwhelm court systems with retaliatory lawsuits, liens, and filings, all creating a paperwork hellscape for government officials, most of whom have no idea what they're reading. Lieutenant Flowers, yeah? Alzo.
Good to see you. Nice to meet you.
Thanks for having me. Corey Flowers has been a cop for more than 22 years and has spent time infiltrating extremist groups and training government employees on how to handle them.
All right, good morning, ladies and gents. Good morning. Moorish sovereigns are very heavy into all manner of fraud. A lot of times very complex fraud, like mortgage schemes, postage stamp fraud, credit card fraud, wire fraud, a lot of bank fraud. Paper terrorism, you guys heard of this? You can use physical legal documentation, whether it's putting a lien against somebody else's property, filing a lawsuit against somebody else in order to intimidate them, particularly in their professional capacity, which definitely creates stress, right? The idea that some folks you guys deal with can impact your livelihood, that's an intimidating thing.
Flowers himself has been on the receiving end of this tactic, which most often targets law enforcement and court personnel. I'm wondering if you can walk me through what this is.
Yes, this is a lawsuit against 2 former police chiefs, a couple mayors, me, and this fella's opinion. These are all the people that he believes wronged him legally. So this is a lawsuit for $4 billion. Or
$4 billion.
With a B, yeah.
Have you seen an increase in the number of people claiming to be sovereign?
Yeah, there's definitely been an increase. Anytime you have an election where power changes, and especially if party changes, you have effectively half.
I just had to pause it for a second. With the 4 billion, it reminds me of watching Coming to America. I don't know if anyone remembers that movie, but I don't. He went to ask for some money, Arsenio Hall. He went to what I would equate to being Western Union at that time, and he was basically requesting money from the kingdom, and the lady was being sarcastic because he was asking for 400, 500,000. She's like, "Hey, while you're at it, you might as well just ask for a cool million." And he just went ahead and just asked. And when the guy was just telling me about how he's, had a lawsuit for $1 billion, that just flashed through my mind because, damn, you sure could have asked for $1 trillion. Why not?
Why not? Why not?
Oh man, I know a person. Well, I told you about this other person that I was speaking of earlier. I don't want to mention any names. But there's another person I know that claims to be in the Moorish community, and when they're just breaking it down, how they're into fraud and things like that, and basically filing fallacious lawsuits to try to confuse you and things like that. That describes him to a fucking T, like to a fucking T. He's a damn con artist.
And ain't nobody going to jail. Just everybody's got their fraud here in the Americas. PPP loans, land paperwork. There's a fraud for everybody. But my point is, nobody's going to jail. No religions are being broken up and saying that's not a religion. That's just a fraud unit. Nobody's doing that. And what is the point of having these police officers and detectives put these units together if at the end of the day all they're doing is documenting what happened, but there doesn't seem to be any ramifications or things implemented to stop what is going on? Does that make sense? Did I make sense just now?
It makes sense, but I'm going to disagree. And the reason why I'm going to disagree is because I'm going to reach here a little bit. I'm going to reach. What you're saying, I definitely feel you on it, but I think it's something bigger than just this, right? Okay, so if they let them get away with this shit, I think that well, in essence, letting them get away with it. I think that they're trying to build something on them. I think they're trying to stack it on, and use the FBI or the CIA or other organizations that I barely know what the abbreviation for these organizations are to build big cases on them. And I think they're going to try to give them serious time. And with the administration that we're having right now, it's perfect. You're Islamic. Yeah, we're gonna sit your ass down for a little bit here.
Let me see. Will any of us be heartbroken?
Nah.
I ain't think so. I ain't think so.
I
I ain't
definitely, I definitely would, and I also think right now, if that's what you're intending on doing, um, it also would be a perfect time to do it as well because it would be a perfect distraction from other things that are going on, right? You're trying to get some South Africans here anyway, so we might as well start pinning shit on Islamic groups, right? And then we're gonna bring these good citizens over here to America from South Africa that are going through things, right? Who are getting their land stripped from them, that or I can't think of the right word that I want to call it, or being subjugated, or being ostracized, or getting some of the treatment that they were doing, that their ancestors were doing to black people that were in South Africa.
Right.
So
Those poor victims. Those poor victims.
yeah, the poor victims, exactly. Let me end the rest of this video. It's short. It's like 4 minutes.
For the country that gets into a panic to varying degrees. Panic like that will often drive folks to these movements.
What threat do these folks pose?
When you have a subgroup that just believes the rules don't apply to them at all, like that creates chaos.
There are now almost 3 million messages to the government to recognize Moors as a federally autonomous body of indigenous Americans. But that's not what most Moors want. And distinguishing themselves from that ideology has been a priority for the original Moorish Science Temple of America. There are Moors across the country. We know of groups in Rhode Island and New Jersey, but neither of those groups are part of the Moorish Science Temple of America, which are like the OG Moorish Americans. We came here to their headquarters to speak to the Supreme Grand Sheik to see if he thinks these splinter groups are legit and if their practices are in line with their Moorish teachings. The Moorish Science Temple of America was founded in 1913 by Noble Drew Ali, who taught that all black people were stripped of their national identity and Islamic faith through racist oppression. At its peak in the 1920s, it boasted upwards to 35,000 members who aspired to uplift a fallen humanity. We've come to Sunday school to learn from the 8th generation successor of Prophet Noble Drew Ali, the Supreme Grand Sheik.
Welcome to today's Sunday School. I'm going to ask some questions first. Is a man white? Is a man black? Man is not a color, period. Nationality was, is, and will always be what? The order of the day.
What are the principles that the Moorish Science Temple of America stand for?
So there's love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. However, we do have fundamental principles, and one of them is obedience to law. We're not encouraging members or anyone else to be involved in anything unlawful and disgraceful.
When the public sees Moors, it seems like they just lump you all into one group.
That's true.
But there are groups of Moors that don't comport themselves in the way that you all do. How do you reconcile that?
They're robbers and schemers. Moorish Americans don't do those kind of things, and it's written in our laws. We don't take people's property, and we're not anti-American. This is not an Afrocentric organization. And for those who try to make it that way, they will pay the price.
As the Moorish Science Temple of America, do you feel any sense of obligation to check those fringe groups?
Oh yeah, we check them all the time. All the time.
What does that look like?
It looks like you being caught with your hand in a cookie jar. And we see you with your hand in a cookie jar. And you still lie that that's not your hand. But they don't have to be told that they're wrong as much as the law is telling them that they're wrong. Because whether you have affairs on or not, if you're breaking the law, you're breaking the law. And you're going to get yours.
All rise, please.
Your Honor, the next matter before the court is Commonwealth versus Jamal Latimer, docket 21361. Remand.
Jamal has been incarcerated since last summer's roadside incident. If convicted on all 11 indictments, mostly weapons charges, he could be locked up for decades. Jaleesa continues to attend each of Jamal's hearings. We were able to speak to him through a recorded line after his most recent pretrial hearing, where he remained steadfast in his mission.
This is a collect call from an incarcerated individual at the Middlesex County Billerica House of Corrections.
Hello? Hey, Jamal, how you doing?
I'm all right, how are you?
I'm good. What is the ultimate goal of the rise of the Moors?
What's next is to continue to try to do my best to educate my people as to what's going on and possible remedies for a lot of these problems. We're essentially victims of genocide, and it's throughout the legal system of the United States, which makes it a crime against humanity. It affects every aspect of our lives. It affects our education. It affects our ability to do business. It affects our quality of life. I can't think of anything more important than trying to change that.
Whew. So I'm a little confused. I'm a little bit confused as to what exactly their mission is. Because he's just steady saying like, oh well, I'm gonna continue to teach, blah blah blah. What are you teaching? It seems like you're just teaching people to go to prison and not listen to the law. The last part before he came on and started talking, it was a little refreshing that the one guy, the elder gentleman was speaking, and he was letting me know that this is something that just went wow. It kind of reminds me of when they originated the Crips, right? It didn't start to become a gang, right? Or the Black Panthers, right? It didn't start off like that, right? It started off as something good, something to help the community, and just a couple knuckleheads just went wild with it, right?
So the couple knuckleheads though got the whole system taken down. So does that null and void the good that was done, and now nobody wants to do that good again? Or do we even bother to try again? Or are we already there and we just don't realize
It to me it's sad because now I feel a little bad because now I see that they tried to do something right and then just went left. It just went left, and I just don't understand how they have that ideology. And I'm talking about what we would call the rogue ones. Why they have that ideology that they could just do whatever the fuck they want to do. I don't I don't see it. But
I
one thing,
I I loved my kids' YOLO years. It was about 2 years where they just everything was YOLO. And it wasn't until the end of the 2 years that I even found out what YOLO stood for. I was like, is that what they meant all that time? Now I feel even better about swinging because I swung.
there's real consequences out here, and they acting like that shit don't apply to them. And that's the fucked up part because you putting that shit in people's head that they don't have to abide by the rules of everybody else, and that's not true. That's not true. It don't matter how much paperwork and all that shit you do. You drive a vehicle without a driver's license, you fucked. That doesn't mean that you don't have the right to travel. You can travel, but that don't mean that you can operate that fucking vehicle, bro. And then you don't want to tell nobody who you is. They don't know.
I loved it. I love like so in where I live at, one of their favorite things used to be is sobriety checkpoint. But really they just wanted to check to see if your paperwork was good.
Yep, that's how they get you.
And the the things that I used to see on social media, this is how you handle these checks. This is what you can do. And I remember sitting there going, I could never. They would have me bent over the hood of that car and in handcuffs, loaded up, ready to go in 2.2 seconds.
It's just a bunch of word salad, is what it is. And just trying to play on the intelligence of a cop, right? Because what you can actually do is if you know, because not all the officers know the laws are like that. And we see that on a daily basis from things that have nothing to do with this. What you can do is you can probably force your way into a lawsuit if if the officer does not follow the law 100%. But you'll never be able to get over the fact that what you're doing is still incorrect. So, is this what you want to put up on the screen?
Yes, this is something that fascinates me because until just now, when you brought it up on the screen, that was the first time I saw a ship come from Africa. I I think that some people's out of Africa theories are starting to die.
Explain that.
Okay, so what this is a time lapse of the database that was formed on the records of the ships.
Right.
So um so if you started in the beginning and you can see the time lapse of what year they're on. And the different bubbles is like embarking, embarking. And as you can see, it's just going right here between the islands in South America. And by the time you get up here, where it's real active, though, as you can see, they just moving the same people around and around and around in circles.
Oh yeah.
Where it stops, nobody knows. But um, some did come from Africa. Like I said, when you brought it up on the screen, I don't know what year it was on, but one or two did come from Africa. But as you can see, they were pretty much just moving around what was already here.
That makes sense.
You
I
just
try to
saw two come out of Europe. You just saw two come out of Europe.
I try to explain that to people all the time. Like the
Well,
analogy.
right now you have a map to show them because it's real, it's factual, it's according to their records. I'm not saying that they wouldn't change a record to prove a point. I'm not saying that at all.
Exactly. The example I try to give to people when I talk about slavery or try to explain it to people is the Greyhound bus experience. Have you ever rode a Greyhound bus?
No, and I have no desire. No,
Okay.
I rode around with my dad on the city bus enough. I'm good.
Say for instance, if I was to catch a Greyhound bus from Manhattan to Chicago, right? Unless this is an express bus that I'm unaware of or I've never been on, you're going to make a lot of stops along the way, right? Every semi-major city with maybe 50,000 people or more along that way, trust and believe, you are going to stop, right? In Ohio, if you take a bus from Cincinnati, Ohio to Youngstown, Ohio, which is about roughly a 5 hour drive, 5.5 hour drive, you are going to stop in Columbus, well, Dayton, Columbus, probably Mansfield, Cleveland, Akron, Canton. You're going to stop some of everywhere. My whole point of this whole conversation is because it's maybe going over people's head is that why the fuck would you get some damn slaves all the way from Africa and it's all kind of slaves right fucking there in the Caribbean. I mean, in every fucking island. Okay, so the British are the last people to catch on to the scheme of slavery. They are the very last fucking people, right? We have just been brainwashed to think that the British have brought us over here. That is not historically accurate or true in any sense of the manner. The people who brought the Africans over here were the Portuguese and the Spanish. They had been over here for hundreds of years, and you can prove that. I'll just use one example: Jamaica. Perfect example. You can prove that the Spanish were there hundreds of years before the British came. I seen it with my own eyes. If you ever get a chance to go to Grotto's Cave, right? In those caves, the first slaves that they brought over there, had ran and hidden the slaves for hundreds of years, to the point where they knew the caves that are 100% pitch black like the back of their hands. They ran in there and hid from the fucking Spanish, right? So when the British came hundreds of years later, the same fucking black people that stayed in there helped the Spanish hide from them, and they can prove it. So it's simple.
Period. Point blank.
Right. And if you look at the map, look at Brazil, because it kind of starts down there. Really, that's where it really starts. Right. Look how close Brazil is to Africa. Look, it's not far.
And those are sea currents right there. Those are sea current. Those
That
are
would
sea
take you right
current.
there. Would take you right there. If just with a normal sailboat, you eventually are going to run right into Brazil. No matter how you play the game, you're getting there. And if you don't, you're gonna slide right past it and get to the Caribbean. Look, you can see it.
And but when you look up, because remember I was asking you about, have you ever looked into the history of what they built the early ships out of? And for
When
some reason,
you said the wood, where did they get the wood from? That's a great question.
yeah, they really liked cedar, and see how much cedar grows over there across the water on those other continents. It's pretty much only one spot where it's called Lebanon today. It was not Lebanon back then.
Great information. Great information. But the slavevoyages.org, someone else had told me about it. I looked at it a little bit at one point, but it's a little frustrating because it doesn't give you exactly what you want to know, especially when you get right to that year or right close to 1860. It starts getting a little blurry.
Ooh, you ain't lie. You ain't lying. You ain't lying. You ain't lying.
I understand why too, but I still don't. It still pisses me off.
They had to get that paperwork together.
Mm-hmm. And you know,
They wasn't winning all their insurance claims. They had to get that paperwork in.
exactly. And it's really not. Well, we'll never have an exact accurate date as to when slavery ended because pretty much is whenever the word was spread. You know, to that
Mhm.
area. So,
Don't get on no boat. Don't get on no boats, especially if they talk like this. Don't go anywhere near them.
right, but I mean in reference to the people that still was enslaved. Some of them still didn't even know that the slavery was over well into the 1900s.
What are you talking about? There was one plantation that people didn't get off until, what was it, 1980 or late 70s? Don't make me lie. I don't
Hmm.
remember the story well, but it was an actual and factual story.
Also, was factual. Out of all the states in the South, I think I mentioned this before. If you look into what was the biggest plantation they had in that state, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, Georgia, they are the biggest prisons now. Every
Yep.
last one of them.
They just switched them over.
Exactly.
The warden gets to stay in the big house. He gets a couple of prisoners to be his personal valet and caretakers. He might even have a missus and some kids over there in the big house. But it's just an open air prison farm. It's a prison farm.
Exactly. I'm gonna read a little bit more out of Boris. A second. This is about the Moorish Science Temple of America. Okay, so the biography of Drew. 1 second. Scroll down some. Oh boy, I'm messing up here. Sorry, y'all. Damn. I done messed up. See if I can read it from this screen. No, I can't because I can't scroll it down. I just read something different because I can't find where I put it. I accidentally lost it. Or is this it?
Welcome to my world.
Sorry about that, y'all. Stop screen. Okay. So Moorish Americans are people who identify as descendants of the Moors, an ancient group of people from Northwest Africa, which I spoke on earlier. The Moorish Science Temple of America, the MSTA, is a religious organization that teaches that African Americans are of Moorish descent. Their beliefs include African Americans are descendants of the Moabites who have inhabited the shores of Africa. African Americans are Moorish by nationality and Islamic by faith. Black citizens should reclaim their self-identity and pride in post-slavery society. The practices include members of the MSTA are called Moorish American Muslims or Moorish scientists. Members add El or Bey or both to their last names. Men often wear fezes, which originated in Morocco. The Moorish sovereign government. The Moorish sovereign government is a small group of people who follow the teachings of the MSTA. They are also known as the indigenous sovereign movement of the rise of the Moors. Financial fraud. Some Moorish sovereign groups have been involved in financial fraud, including selling fake documents and creating false money orders. I'm not making that claim. That is what is said on the online. This is where I wanted to read from. Okay, so the biography of Drew. Timothy Drew is believed to have been born on January 8th, 1886 in North Carolina, United States. Sources differ as to his background and upbringing. One report has he was the son of two former slaves who were adopted by the tribe of Cherokee. Typical. Another describes Drew as the son of a Moroccan Muslim father and a Cherokee mother. In 2014, an article in the online Journal of Race, Ethnicity, and Religion attempted to link Timothy Drew to Thomas Drew, born on January 8th, 1886, using census records, a World War I draft card, and a street directory records. So the founding of the Moorish Science Temple, Drew Ali reported that he met with the high priest of Egyptian magic during his travels. In one version of Drew Ali's biography, the leader saw him as a reincarnation of the founder. In others, he says that the priests consider him a reincarnation of Jesus, the Buddha, Muhammad, and other religious prophets. According to biography, the high priest trained Ali in mysticism and gave him a lost section of the Quran. The last text became known as the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America. It is also known as the Circle 7 Quran because of its cover, which features a red number 7 surrounded by a blue circle. The first 19 chapters are from the Aquarian Gospel of Jesus Christ, published in 1908 by esoteric preacher and Ohioan Levi Dowling. The Aquarian Gospel, Dowling described Jesus' supposed travels to India, Egypt, and Palestine during the years of his life, not accounted for by the New Testament. Chapters 20 to 45 are adapted from the Rosicrucian work unto thee I grant, featuring minor stylistic changes. They provide guidance on living, education, and the responsibilities of adherents. Drew Ali wrote the last 4 chapters in the Circle 7 Quran himself. In these, he wrote, the fallen sons and daughters of the Asiatic nation of North America need to learn to love instead of hate and to know of their higher self and lower self. This is the unity of the Holy Quran of Mecca for teachings and instructing all Moorish Americans, etc. The key of civilization is in the hands of the Asiatic nations. The Moorish, who were ancient Moabites and the founders of the holy city of Mecca. Drew Ali and his followers used this material to claim Jesus and his followers were Asiatic. Asiatic from the term Drew Ali used for all darkly or olive colored people. He labeled all whites as Europeans. He suggested that all Asiatics should be allied. Ali crafted more science from a variety of sources, a network of affirmative spirituality that focused on on the power of the individual to bring about personal transformation through mystical knowledge of the divine within. In the interwar years in Chicago and other major cities, he used these concepts to preach racial pride and uplift. His approach appealed to thousands of African Americans who had left severely oppressed conditions in the South through the Great Migration and faced struggles in new urban environments. So, again, I think that's just uh,
So he gave them a new religion.
right.
He
He just
gave them
gave
a
them
new religion.
right. That just made them feel a sense of pride to be black instead of being at the bottom of the totem pole, how most Christian sects are. But again, it's cherry picking because most people don't really read the Quran, and if you do, you really don't understand Arabic. So you miss the parts that are racist as well. Is my point.
Right, 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 right. And I never looked into their issues. I never did until I recently went to a childhood story. I was in the library with grandson, and I picked up the story about the 40 thieves, and I was reading the opening intro, something that you just don't pay attention to as a child. You just skip to the good part. Nobody reads the opening intro as a child. But I read it as an adult, and I was like, wait a minute, you mean this whole story is based on the fact that a dude got mad that a woman had intercourse with a black man? Because it said very specifically, cheated with a black man, a black Moor. It's very specifically said a black Moor.
Don't make sense.
I was like, and that's been in my childhood story all this time. I just thought Alibaba and the 40 Thieves and that whole thing about her telling 1,000 stories for like 1,001 nights to stay alive. I was like, man, that must be so neat to just sit there making up stories just to keep yourself alive. I will tell you whatever the fuck you want to hear to stay alive. But but it was all crushed because I just read the opening intro. I was like, ain't that some shit?
I'm starting to believe that Muslims believe in Jesus more than Christians do.
Right? Hey, you see how it breaks down every time. It breaks down every time. Now Jesus then traveled to all these different locations before he died. Didn't he die at like 33 years of age? That's a lot of traveling, considering that nobody could fly back then. Everybody was traveling by donkey and boat.
I don't see how people, when they learn these things, where they learn parts of these stories, right? How do they correlate that with be? See, everybody believes in Jesus. It must be true. No, it makes the story more fucking ridiculous. And that's it. So I would just look at it like, if I could see that this is bullshit and this is the same person, right? How's it not bullshit coming from somebody else's point of view? It's all bullshit.
Because they can give you printed material. How hard is it to make a story up and get it printed into a book and say, look, I have a book that says the words that I'm telling you about now? They don't ask, well, who gave you the words to write in the book? God. God. Who's God? That's what the book is going to tell you about. God.
But why do people think that they're Asiatic though? When that does
Why
not,
not?
it doesn't correlate with reality. It don't.
Neither does God of this book, but you see how it keeps getting added to the story. So why not add some other bullshit to the story?
I don't know. I don't know. Let me play this video because it's just getting frustrating to me. Mm-mm.
family. Got a very informative video today, very divine, inspirational video. So I know a lot of people out there wonder, what do Moorish Americans believe in? What exactly is your religion? What do y'all believe in? So today's video is going to be about the beliefs of Moorish Americans, coming from the doctrine of the Moorish Science Temple of America. But before I begin, I want to give praise to the Almighty Creator, who we call God Allah. I want to give all the honors to all of you who are taking care of their children, honoring their ancestors, the elderly, respecting your mothers and fathers, honoring your mothers and fathers, and handling your business no matter what's going on in the world. So I want to give honors to that, Islam. So before I begin, I want to say that the Moorish Science Temple of America was and is inspired by the lofty teachings of the Quran of Mecca. The Quran, which was revealed to Muhammad, who is Allah's messenger. So it's only right for me to begin this video with the actual Quran. So, Surah 1. In the name of Allah, the most great.
I just wanted to stop it just to let everybody know that he's irritating me already. And the reason why he's irritating me is because he's presenting a question and as if he has the answer, and then he's not fucking answering it. He's going to the reading the book. I don't give a fuck about that. I could read that on my own. You said that you were going to tell us about what you believe. You didn't say that you was going to read that fucking book.
You said it perfectly. There's nothing to add to that. You said it perfectly.
That irritates my soul when they do that shit.
If your book comes from a book that came from a book that came from another book, give me the original book. Let me go backwards. Let me work it backwards. I want to start at the original book. Where's the original book? Nobody can agree on that. That's the part nobody agrees on. We got this version, we got this version, we got this version, we got this version. I want the original story. We came up with language, letters, and all of that for a reason. There had to be more to tell than just who married who begot who, and what happened to the imaginary lines that they put on these things called maps. There's got to be more to the story, right?
I just wanted him to get to the point. And if he's not going to get to the point, at least keep it real.
You're not going to get to the point. You can't get to the point when there is no point but the book.
I mean, I get it. But what I'm saying to you is, at least keep it real, right? If what your mission today is to do is to preach to me and try to pass Allah's just say it.
Their mission is to get 10%. They need 10%. They don't need you to believe it. They just want you to give 10%. Because they get a commission for bringing in more 10% than anybody else.
That shit crazy. I'm gonna let him finish though, because this video is not that long.
Gracious, the most merciful. All praises and thanks be to Allah, the Lord of all that exists. The most gracious, the most merciful, the only owner and ruling judge of the day of resurrection. You alone we worship, and you alone we ask for help. For each and everything, guide us to the straight way, the way of those who you have bestowed your grace, not the way of those who earned your anger. So it's coming out the Quran of Mecca. So now, I also want to say this: Allah is not male or female. The very word Allah is actually neutral, coming from El Ilah, which is the old Hebrew term for God. La, that's actually feminine. So when we talk about El Ilah or Ilah or Allah, that's neutral. Even though we say Allah, the Father of the universe, we're not talking about a father as in a male in the household who has children, per se. We're talking about just an action or energy. So Allah is not male or female. So I just wanted to say that to begin. So now let's get right
Who gives
into
a
it.
fuck?
The universal Allah is one, yet he is more than one. All things are one. So Allah is invisible, yet manifests through all of creation, through us, through everything that's in nature, through everything. And what man does is take everything that Allah has created in nature and take nature and recreate things from nature, like computers, iPads, paper, books, tables, homes, etc. But all this comes from one source, which is Allah. By the sweet breath of Allah, all life is bound in one. So if you touch a fiber of a living thing, you send a thrill from the center of the outer bound cells. They surely will not kill. Allah actually has no of love. So some men take one part of Allah, another person. When men are afraid of Allah and take him for a foe.
Yeah. His video was titled Fraudulently. He's not actually talking about Moorish Americans. He's trying to preach. I'm not going to listen to it any longer because he's not educating me in any way. So, fuck him. I'll do a little bit more reading on them after NJ speaks, and then we'll get out of here.
Oh no, I have absolutely nothing on that one. Absolutely nothing. There's nothing I can put on that.
I feel like I was more than patient with him, but it was a bunch of bull. So if you're at home watching this in any way, please discard anything that he said because it was a bunch of FM baloney. Give me 1 second. I'm going to read this and wrap this up for today. Go down. Give me 1 second. Okay, 1913. Drew Ali formed the Canaanite Temple in Newark, New Jersey. He left the city after agitating people with his views on race. Drew Ali and his followers migrated while planting congregations in Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., and Detroit. Finally, Drew Ali settled in Chicago in 1925, saying the Midwest was closer to Islam. The following year, he officially registered Temple Number 9. Ali advised his followers to avoid confrontation, instead focus on uplifting their community to earn respect. By doing so, they could establish their position in the United States by cultivating a culture identity aligned with his beliefs regarding Black personhood. In the late 1920s, Chicago Tribune journalists estimated the Moorish Temple had about 35,000 members in 17 temples in cities across the Midwest and Upper South. It was reportedly studied and watched by the Chicago police. Building Moorish science affiliated businesses was part of the group's program, which was similar to Marcus Garvey's Universal Negro Improvement Association of African Communities. Community leagues and the later Nation of Islam. In 1928, members of the Moorish Science Temple of America had obtained some responsibility within Chicago and respectability within Chicago and Illinois, being featured predominantly and favorably in the Chicago Defender, an African American newspaper, and conspicuously collaborated with African American politician and businessman Daniel Jackson. Ali attended the January 1929 inauguration of Lewis L. Emerson as 27th governor of Illinois in Springfield, Illinois. Illinois. The Chicago Defender stated that his trip included interviews with many distinguished citizens from Chicago who greeted him on every hand. With the growth in its population and membership, Chicago was established as the center of the movement. In early 1929, following a conflict over funds, Claude Green Bay, the business manager of Chicago Temple Number 1, split from the Moorish Science Temple of America. He declared himself Grand Sheik and took a number of members with him. On March 15th, Green Bay was stabbed to death at the Unity Hall of the Moorish Science Temple of Indiana Avenue in Chicago. At the time, Drew Ali was out of town dealing with former Supreme Grand Governor Lomax Bey Edeliz Muhammad, a professor who had supported Green Bay's attempted coup. When Ali Drew returned to Chicago, the police arrested him and other members of the community on suspicion of having instigated the killing. No indictment was sworn for Drew Ali at the time. Shortly after his release by the police, Drew Ali died at age 43 at his home in Chicago on July 20th, 1929. Although the exact circumstances of his death remain unknown, his death certificate stated that he died from tuberculosis, bronchopneumonia. Despite the official report, many of his followers speculated that his death was caused by injuries from the police or from other members of the faith. Others thought that others thought it was indeed due to pneumonia. One follower told the Chicago Defender the prophet was not ill, his work was done, and he had laid his head upon the lap of one of his followers and passed out. The death of Ali brought out a number of candidates to succeed him. Edward Melly L. stated that Drew Ali had personally declared him to be his successor. In August, within a month of Drew Ali's death, John Givens L., Ali's chauffeur, declared that he was Drew Ali reincarnated. He was said to have fainted while working on Drew Ali's automobile, and the sign of the star and crescent appeared in his eyes. At the September Unity Conference, at the September Unity Conference, Gibbons again made his claim of reincarnation. However, the governors of the Moorish Science Temple of America declared Charles Kirkman Bey to be Drew Ali's successor and named him Grand Advisor. While the support of several temples each, both Mealy L. and Gibbons L. went to lead independent factions of the Moorish Science Temple. All three factions formed and led by Kirkman Bey, Mealy L., and Evans L. are active today. On September 25th, 1929, Kirkman Bey's wife reported to the Chicago police his apparent kidnapping by Ira Johnson. Accompanied by two Moorish Science members, the police visited the home of Johnson when they were met by gunfire. The attack escalated into a shootout that spilled into the surrounding neighborhood. In the end, a policeman as well as members were killed in the gun battle, and a second policeman later died of his wounds. The police took 60 people into police custody and reported 100 police officers patrolled Chicago's South Side that evening. Johnson and two others were later convicted of murder. Kirkman Bey went on to serve as Grand Advisor of one of the most important factions until 1959, when the reins were given to F. Nelson Bey. The Nation of Islam, the community, was further split when Wallace Farad Muhammad, known within the temple as David Ford L., also claimed it was taken by some to be the reincarnation of Drew Ali. When his leadership was rejected, Ford L. broke away from the Moorish Science Temple. He moved to Detroit, where he formed his own group, an organization that will become the Nation of Islam. The Nation of Islam denied any historical connection with the Moorish Science Temple until February 26, 2014, when Louis Farrakhan acknowledged the contributions of the noble Drew Ali to the Nation of Islam and its founding principles. So that's interesting. I actually never knew that the Nation of Islam was a sect of the Moorish Science Temple. I thought the Moorish Science Temple came later. I said that earlier in the stream today, but I thought that was maybe like in the past 20 or 30 years. But interesting to know that that's where the Nation of Islam comes from.
Right. A religious sect. A side note. I'm just amazed that in that story that they didn't like the fact that the leader died from sickness. That wasn't going to work well for the narrative. They didn't want him to die from police brutality or being in the jail and catching pneumonia. That didn't work well for the narrative. So what narrative did they use when he passed away again? He passed away and came back in the chauffeur. He reincarnated in the chauffeur.
Right. They always got to add something supernatural to the shit. Like, okay, it was going good with the pro-black shit, we all trying to make unity in the community and shit. Now when a motherfucker die, now you got to make up some bullshit. Come on now,
And
stop
and
it.
is Is this not the organization that had me relabeled as an African American when I came in this world and my birth certificate simply said black? But somewhere along the way, they took that option away and told me I'm African American. That
The
sounds like
object,
some more shit. That's some more shit. That's some more relabeling. I was born here in the Carolinas, but I have found some long lost lineage to some land that I'm now going to call Morocco. Is that where they're from, Morocco? Did I get that correct, or is it someplace else?
yes, Morocco.
Okay, so I was born here in South Carolina, but I have some memories of some ancestors and some stories that I was told where I actually own this plot of land over there, and I want to tie the land that I have here that I was born on to this land over there I was told about, and I can see it on a map. I ain't been there yet, but I know it's there because it's here on this map. And I'm now going to set up 9 different chapters here in the United States until I figure out the paperwork and we are strong enough to lay claim to this land over there while we are born and increase our numbers over here. Am I assessing that correctly? Because I don't want to tell the story incorrectly if I ever repeat this story.
Sounds fairly accurate. But you know what? I'm very disappointed with. Very very disappointed because I probably should have did my homework a little bit better before we started today because I was under the impression that the last video that I was playing was going to be an explanation from their mouths as to how they got here. He just took it to a level that nobody even gives a fuck about. Because again, I'm more on the educational aspect of it, or I want to hear, you know, the historicity of it, even though it wouldn't be
If there
accurate. Would it?
if
It,
if there
it would.
was a claim that they could document with a piece of paper, I guarantee you would have found what you was looking for in that explanation. It they can't say it because it didn't happen.
Well, it definitely didn't happen. We know it definitely didn't happen, but there has to be some form of explanation for it, or like how did you get here? What's your explanation? How did you what ride did you take here? Tell me how you got here.
The book,
I,
the book. Just reference the book. You got to read the words in the book. That's when the book come in. Just read the words in the book. Don't you asking too many questions. Read the book. Give me your 10%. Give me
I
your
think
10%. While you're reading, give me 10%.
I think I think that if I really looked, I think I could find a BS story on here. I mean, it's too late. It's too late now. But I think if I really would have took like another 10 minutes and just skimmed through it a little bit, I could have heard a little
I've been
crazy
over
story.
here clicking and clicking and clicking. I ain't found it. And you know me, I love to come in with a good contradiction. I found it. I've been clicking and clicking and clicking and mm-mm, mm-mm,
Yeah,
mm-mm.
because like I said, that's the part I want to know. But I mean, I do have an explanation of their existence today, how they started, and it's good to know that they are the parent religion to the Nation of Islam. That's good to know because that's one thing that, again, it seems like the Nation of Islam has hid. Because I've never heard that shit in my life. I've never heard of that. So I'm glad we did this review of the
That was
Moors.
why Malcolm X had to go. He was putting 2 and 2 together.
I'm gonna rewatch that now. Now that I know that, I do know that when he
Right,
went.
right. When you rewatch it with the information that you have now, those little in between scenes mean a whole lot more.
Listen, I remember when I watched the Boys in the Hood after the fact that I realized that they were kind of trying to subplay on the Bloods and Crip shit. I said, God damn it, how the fuck I ain't see that? How the fuck didn't I see that? And it's crystal clear all day. Now that I know, but they didn't just blatantly say it and I know why. They didn't blatantly say it because there was a conflict with the people of the neighborhood that they were taping that shit in, and they said what you're not gonna do is openly say that you killed the blood in this neighborhood, whether if you faking or being for real. They said so either you just don't bring up that shit because now that the whole world don't know what that means, and clearly I didn't, or you just don't do it at all, or you don't tape it here, and that's what they told him.
Well, they taped it there, so
They
I guess
taped it.
the implication was clear.
They taped it there, but never one time did they speak on gangs or Bloods and Crips in the movie.
Good. I had a stepson. I had a stepson that was very, very fascinated with the Bloods and the Crips. And he was a little suburban kid. I didn't understand his fascination, but he tried to emulate it from the information that he was gathering. And he wasn't gathering the information from very good places.
Right, that's how it always is.
And so I have a bone to pick with that whole thing. Like what they do over there is clearly working for them. I ain't mad at them, but you know when the little suburban kids is trying to emulate it from very poor sources and make claims, and then I got to deal with another parent saying, "Oh my God, they're wearing so much red. They're trying to be part of a gang," and it's like, how is that gang affiliated? It can't be that it's just a good color on them and they like that color.
That's what it
Like
is, Willie.
what are you associating with a gang? So, to make everybody feel better, that year when we did the wardrobe switch up, we implemented more colors so nobody was feeling like one color was more dominant than another. And then it was, oh my God, oh my God, what are they gonna do if they catch you wearing the wrong color? And I'm just looking at this chick like, what is you? First you was mad it was too much one color, now you worried. What is he telling you when he come home for these visits on the weekend? Because I need to know what conversations y'all having, because y'all about to drive me insane.
The two things that when people, well, let's take Chicago gangs out of it. When I talk about gangs, I'm not talking about Chicago gangs. They're they're different, and they don't apply to what I'm going to say. So the two things that people have to understand when you talk about black gangs, Blood and Crips, right, is number one, you have to understand that if you are not from California, these people do not respect you, and they will fuck you up just as quick as you saying something disrespectful to them as they would for claiming their gang. You have not put the work in to claim their gang, and that's how they feel. That's number one. You have to understand that they don't respect you. There's always the same story. OG came down here and blooded us in or crypt us in. Who is OG? Who?
I have already asked all them questions, never got answers, because I was frankly just done with it by the time I got that frustrated with it. I was like, look, give it up. That's not your life. You're not gonna be welcome to that life. Find a new life. And they became a rapper. And that was the last life that I know about them going down. I don't know what they did with it. But I ain't seen them on none of my award shows, so
And more importantly, gangs are for kids. They for kids. Even the real deal ones, they start like that as kids. You know what I'm saying? And what they're doing is they're fighting for their neighborhood more than anything. So you're getting involved in neighborhood disputes, and you ain't never been to California a day in your life.
and I moved around too much because once you done flipping the house and it sells, it's time to go. So I moved around a lot. So I don't I don't know why that kid always pitted himself against whatever neighborhood we went to next, but he was just always mad at the world. I stopped trying to figure it out, but that's the only association I've ever had with the whole aspect of it.
It don't make no sense. And again, for most places in the United States, they get that shit from watching TV. Again, I live in Ohio. What the fuck do that have to do with me? That shit don't have nothing to do with me. And I'm not trying to pretend like I don't have people that's close to me or family members that think they're in the game. It never was me. I'm not gonna do what OG think I should do. I'm not doing that. For what?
Same, yeah, same thing I told the boys is like I really don't care what's going on out there. I really don't care what's going on in your head. It's just some things I'm not going to accept. Here's my three things I'm not going to accept. Please don't make me try. One or two tried, one or two things didn't work out well. Everybody's readjusted now. They're grown.
It's hard though. Like if you're a kid and you move to the inner city though, and you're not used to
Right.
living
And
in the
that
city.
and that was always my point because I don't adjust to the inner city. I can't. I visited those places. Like, if I had a cousin or one of my siblings going to that area and I was the designated babysitter for the day or watcher or whatever the hell you want to label me, I would go there, but I was not aware of anything to do with the city. It's not my forte. I'm never going to find my bearings. I'm going to be lost. It's just not me. The best I can give you is maybe a suburb, but I prefer country. Like I like giving directions by fields. Like you're gonna pass the peach orchard, you're gonna make a left right there. You're gonna go down two cornfields.
Down yonder.
Cornfields. Don't count the other fields. Two cornfields and make a right.
Oh man. So my family is from the country. Both both sides. My mom family and my dad family. So I get what you're saying. As a kid going to visit, it was always fun. Once I got a little bit older, it wasn't. It wasn't. Once I got to a teenager, it wasn't no fun because people are too far spread apart. You know what I'm saying? So there's no interaction with people your age, and if it is, they're your motherfucking cousin. You know what I'm saying? So I don't got time for that. Send me back
I
to the
remember.
city where it's different people that I have no relation to. You know, so
I I mean, besides the crazy questions that I would get asked, I did enjoy going to visit in the city. I did. Only time I didn't know was when I was visiting my dad's side. That was the only time, because evidently my cousins was kind of spread far and wide. So finding me somebody to play with while I was there at grandmom's,
that's what I'm
it,
saying.
it, but on my mom's side, there was always a cousin. It's just somebody. Go find something to do. Get out of our face. Yes, no problem.
Yeah, it is like because and my cousins they are older. You know what I'm saying? So once I got to a certain age, they was like adults. So they would take me with them, but I was still annoying as fuck to them. So it was kind of rough. But as a small child, it was fun. But the city is better. But it depends on what a person means by the city. Because where I live at, somebody from a big city can be like, that's the country, you know?
Center City, Philadelphia. Wherever Wanamaker's is, start there. That's my inner city. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I loved visiting it. Couldn't explore it enough while I was there, but was always happy to go home.
Yeah, I've never really been to Philadelphia like that. I mean, I've been through. I never really stopped. But to me, when you say the city, it's the inner city, any inner city. Um, but I'm gonna go ahead and end this stream here soon. Um, I still want to get to the bottom of how the Moorish Americans got here. I never will understand.
You read it. You read it. He was born in South Carolina, grew up, wrote a book, said this is what we are going to base our religion on, and started the paperwork of how to become a religion in the United States. And then they started scamming.
Right. Um. Again, to touch on what I said earlier, I'm glad to know that it didn't just always start as what you said, fraudulent situations. Um, started as something good for the community to try to uplift Black people, but when it left, there's always going to be con artists with whatever. You have something going good, especially when there's currency being transferred.
The
But
only reason for religion is the common. Believe in something, give me my 10%. That's the only reason for a religion. Only reason.
it's the only religion, and I think that this religion is closer to Chrislam instead of Islam because they touch on a lot of Christianity. Jesus' name has been said quite a few times today, but I wasn't expecting to hear his name more. I thought I was going to hear Muhammad's name more, or some shit like that, Jabril or somebody like that, Allah maybe. But it's just another sect of Christianity, in my opinion. I think they use that tool to drape Christians in the
They,
Black Christians.
right. Yes, they were looking for Christians, but they're still using um words like L, which means it's still, I can't pronounce this word. Ugarit, 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 Ugaritic mythology. It's still based on that. El, Baal, da 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 da.
Exactly. So it's still in the pantheon. Still,
Hmm.
still of the Canaanite pantheon.
Before, well, actually, the Ugaritic was first, and then the Canaanites and the Hebrews took what they liked from that and broke into their fractions. So it would have been the Ugaritic first, the Canaanites, and the Hebrews.
That situation gets a little tricky too, and especially once I wish I would have never started reading into the Dead Sea Scrolls. That just adds to the fucking confusion. Um, it just makes the story dumber, and I don't see why. Just because you found something you believe is true, just because you found up some ripped up pieces of paper, now well, scientifically, historically, now it's true. No, you should base it off of when you fucking found it. You don't know how long that shit been sitting there. You don't know.
No clue at all. You shouldn't count until the day it was found.
It shouldn't count until the day it was fucking found. You don't know how it got there, and it's written in 5 different languages. Why are we counting this as all the same thing? And to call these things scrolls is a stretch. That's just like having $100 calling yourself a cash money millionaire. That's a reach like a motherfucker. There ain't no scrolls.
Ah, ah. I knew I would never be a cash money millionaire when I accidentally one day spent $100 in the dollar store, and this is when it was still a dollar store. I said, nope, nope, I have a problem. I have a problem. Something's wrong.
Buying all kind of dumb shit. It don't even matter. That's gonna break in 2 weeks. My first apartment, I went Dollar Tree Christmas. All that shit got broke. Can opener, man, they got the most
Everything,
worthless can openers on
everything,
earth.
everything, everything,
They got
everything.
they got the nerve to go up. Knives all dull.
They dull when they come out the pack. How it come out the plastic though?
You know what that shit would be good for now that I think about it? To set up a good profit house. Like say for instance, if I was trying to sell a property or something like that, I just be like, look here, man, here, take $50, go to Dollar Tree or $1.25 tree real quick, get as much as you can, and just set all that shit out. Get you some nice little napkins and shit like that. That's what that would be good for.
Fact, fact, fact. One of the reasons that realtors and the DIY section get along so well. How to stage on a budget, staging items you can move from one house to the other. If you if you ever do a walkthrough of a house and it's staged, you can just have a field day. Be like, "Ooh, look at that cardboard headboard." Be like, you go to touch the wainscoting on the wall, and it turns out that it's just the 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 sticky paper, the sticky paper that you can peel.
Exactly.
All kinds of stuff, all kinds of tricks, all kinds of things.
Man, listen, I think I'm a rare breed. I used to go grocery shopping up in Dollar Tree. I remember I used to be getting a little. This is years ago. I remember I used to get the little 2 pieces of chicken for $1. I used to be taking my food stamp card.
I'm like, I missed out on all the fun stuff.
Get you about
All the
six
fun,
six
listening to
eggs.
my mama. Listening to my mama. No, baby, we want quality. We want quality. We're gonna go over here and do all our shopping. See, had I not listened to her, I'd have been bargain basing it right there with everybody else who was getting away with it.
Look, it's always a drumstick in the back though. It's never there's never a wing. It's never a breast. It's always that big ass motherfucker drumstick and that back that's square like a linebacker back, like a Ninja Turtle shell back.
Well, I like the drumstick, and well, the back. I'll just if somebody's there with me, they can have the back, or I'll give it to the dog. But I like the drumstick.
Shit, I eat that shit too. Listen, all chicken tastes the same. I don't give a fuck what part of it is. It all tastes the same to me. Now, if we basing it off how much meat is on that motherfucker, now that's a different story. But if we're talking about the flavor, I don't give a fuck. Listen, where I live at, y'all got churches. But I don't got it in this city. But this one I stayed. I stayed in the city called Akron. I used to have 'em. Y'all got churches chicken where you live at? Them 2 for Tuesdays. That's how I used to be tearing that shit up. Everybody did too. And you pull up to the
I
drive-through.
used to go out of my way in New Jersey for one of the last standing church's chickens in New Jersey. I wonder if that bitch is still there. But I live in the South now, so yeah, I got churches. I got a whole row of fast food. You name it, I got it.
When there used to be a whole bunch of them in Akron, and they always was in the most sketchiest areas, like always the most dangerous spots. Right? You pull up to that motherfucker on Tuesday, you know what time it is. Person, they don't even want nothing else. Hey, let me get about 10 of them 2 for 2s. That's all motherfucker want. That's all they want. You'd be seeing them, it'd be the same box over and over, just coming out the drive-through window.
Now I'm gonna be right there. I'm gonna be right
Oh,
there.
that
Here's
shit is
my
pretty funny.
$2. Do you need tax? You got tax? Okay, here you go.
When I first moved up there, it was only 179. But then
Oh
it went,
wow.
yeah, then it went up to $2. But now I don't live up there no more. And they had probably like maybe 10 or 12 churches when I stayed there. Now it's only one. Like literally, like only one. It's all clean now when you go in there, right? The person cooking the shit, they don't be having flour all on their chest and shit no more. The hair be actually combed. Everything. I went in that bitch. I said, where the crackheads at? Ain't nobody gonna rob me. Ain't nobody gonna ask me for no change. Ain't nobody gonna try to sell me no pussy. Nothing. I'm like, man, this chicken ain't gonna be. It ain't
No.
gonna taste the same.
And it's not. It don't. It don't.
Listen,
I can tell you that from look, the churches first got here before I left the first time, so it would have been somewhere around 2015, 2014, something like that. Churches got here. And we got churches and Popeye within like 6 weeks of each other. So we're doing the
going.
yeah, yeah, we doing the town shuffle. We seeing which one we like better. Every time we got a coupon in the weekly flyer that they fill your mailbox up with, we going to one of the two.
That
And so
red
we
beans and rice
finally
and shit.
decided. We finally decided the Popeyes was hitting, churches was not. But the churches had the better deals to this day. Churches has the better deal. Until the other day, my daughter said the church's coupon said $33. No, that wasn't churches.
What?
Don't make me lie on churches. It was KFC. KFC
Yeah, they
had the
are.
nerve to have $33 coupon for a 16-piece chicken dinner. I said they smoking dope.
I'll go to the A-Rap. Fuck you.
I'm getting tacos before I go over there to get some $33 coupon chicken for 16.
You want me to cut that bitch out too? Fuck you. This is, see, this is where Popeye's winning at, right? Now I get you. I mean, excuse me. This is where church is winning at. Now I get you. Popeye's chicken might be a little bit better. It's less greasy for sure because churches you can hold it like that and it's gonna drip. But this is where churches to get you. One thing you will never be able to say out your mouth and being truthful with it. Church's biscuit will not fucking strangle you. It won't. It won't. That bitch is refreshing to your mouth.
I ain't
Even
gonna
if
lie, churches got the biscuits. Churches
even
got,
if you thirsty.
especially if they got honey packs to drizzle on it.
Hmm. That's why the old man be going there. You ain't nut.
I didn't even think about that. Now I'm scandalized. I'm gonna be looking at all the old men as they taking their can across the parking lot differently now. I'm gonna be looking at them different.
Be done bought you a 2-piece and got you later. You ain't even nut.
Ooh.
But yeah, that biscuit ain't gonna never have your motherfucking mouth dry. Now, when you talk about Popeyes, that bitch like kryptonite. Yeah. Think about it. Okay, we all got a couple pieces, a couple family members that we have no idea how they died. Now, if you go back and really do the autopsy of that shit, I could promise you they within 10 square miles of a motherfucking Popeyes. Man, that shit killing niggas more than Newports out here. Pay attention. You gotta stay woke on that one. Now, KFC, they biscuit in between. Some days you might get choked out. Some days you won't. But with KFC, the next day, they biscuit is a weapon. Put that bitch in the salt. Pow. Just last one, niggas. Pow. Pow. I think they took that shit out the joint. For real. No one's gangster enough to eat a motherfucking KFC goddamn biscuit the next day. Nobody. I don't care what kind of teeth you got. I don't care if you got your first set still. I don't care. If you got veneers, I don't care if you're on your second whole set. It's not worth the risk. That shit cracking everything. So I'm gonna have to go ahead with churches. I'm gonna have to give it to churches because on one end it's gonna clog your arteries, fuck up your cholesterol. But that biscuit, you can sop that shit up with it.
All I'm gonna say is it depends on if I'm asked. Because if I'm asked, I'm always going to say Popeyes by default. Because I don't really go for the biscuit because I'm being asked what I want to eat. I want the chicken.
Yeah, that's true.
But if I'm just tagging along to be tagging along, and I'm like, well, I don't really want the chicken. I'm probably just gonna nibble on the biscuits, and they be like, hey, that's a great deal. I ain't gotta buy you nothing. You just had a biscuit. Well, in that case, I want churches. We gotta go to churches. We gotta go to church.
So, truthfully, like when I was talking about how they used to have the churches in the most scandalous places, you really had to be on guard because one thing about churches too. So I'm gonna give them a little knock. They never have what you want. You always gotta wait for them to make it. Then you go in that bitch. They got all these big ass pieces of fucking chicken just sitting there waiting. Like this, you never got my shit. You never what I want, you never have. If I fuck around and get some tenders that ain't ready, I gotta sit there and wait for you to make that shit. Or any other piece of chicken that is not a breast. If you ain't getting a breast or a thigh, it's not ready. So then you're gonna have to sit there, and that gives the opportunity for things to happen. So,
This is true. This is true, and I never thought about that before. So I don't know. My head might be on a new kind of swivel, but I ain't got to worry about that where I am right now. I'll worry about that if I start traveling again.
Before we go, I'm gonna tell you this last story. This is before all the hood ones closed. It was the very last one. Damn, what's the name of that street on South Park is in Akron. This shit crazy. So look, I go over there, right? I don't know why I was American. This is since I moved. So I'm like, shit, when I go up there, I'm getting me some church. I hadn't had that because I don't got nowhere left. So again, there's always people outside begging and shit because you had some very sketchy neighborhoods. So was this dude outside begging, right? And he was the type of crackhead that he just had no patience. And I'm gonna explain to you why. He was the type of crackhead that's sitting there like this with his stem in his hand while he's begging you. And the reason why he got his stem like that is because he can't wait. He need that stone to go. Even though the person selling it to him is not there. He's being efficient. He's not putting that stem back in his pocket until a stone go in it. Right? This is his mentality, and I'm explaining to you why. Right? So I see him. I pull up. Now I know that churches takes a minute. I know this. I see about 4 or 5 cars there. You're gonna be here about 20 minutes. Now, at this time, I'm a pretty solid dude. You know what I'm saying? I'm probably about 220, 225-ish, something like that. So I ain't worried about them. But when you in this neighborhood I'm talking about, these are things you have to worry about, right? Because these people will try you and not just them. So I get out the car. It's my turn for him to beg me, right? My mentality is this. If you're homeless and you're fucked up out in these streets and I got a couple dollars and shit, if you hungry, I might give you some food, right? But I'm not supporting your habits because even though I've never been addicted to crack, I've never tried it personally. I have been on drugs and I have been an alcoholic before, and nobody wasn't just out there just like here you go. Here goes a can of beer. Here goes a bottle, Reggie. Nobody wasn't doing that. So shit, get it how you live. I don't give a fuck how you get your shit. It's not on me, right? But at the same time, if your ass hungry and I got a couple of dollars, I'll do it. So he starts asking me for some fucking money with his stem in his hand. I tell this motherfucker exactly what I just said. Like, listen, if you're hungry, I'll get you anything in here that you want to eat. Guess what he did?
What?
That motherfucker first he looked at me. Now I'm 6'4". That motherfucker looked at me like I'm short, like, and walked away. I said, well, goddamn it. I said, well, I'll be goddamn. And you know what I did? You know what the fuck I did? I went in that church's chicken. I told every motherfucking person that had an ear. If I would have known sign language, I would have told the deaf motherfuckers in that bitch too. Don't give his ass shit. Fuck him. Fuck you gonna look at me like I'm short and walk the fuck away from me. You ain't even gonna acknowledge me with a no. Fuck you. I should knock that fucking stem out your hand and pray that it's glass. But nah, that crackhead would have probably whooped my ass that day. Cause don't think that motherfucker don't got no strength. They've been out here struggling and striving all day and all night, fighting out in these streets, robbing, stealing, and all that shit. So nah, I ain't no fool, but the rest of the shit I told you is true.
First thing I was ever told, never doubt them. Like I have swing issues. I do. I swing issues. So long time ago, my mom helped me get over my swing issue so that I would think before I swung. And my cousin was the first one to tell me, leave them crackheads alone. And then when I was all grown up and I moved to Florida, first thing my cousin told me was, leave the meth heads alone.
Because both situations, cocaine or methamphetamine, it gives you supersonic strength. And people don't realize that. Well, okay, why do they test athletes for that shit? Because, I used to think, like, why would you give a fuck up a motherfucker smoke some crack? And because that motherfucker got more energy than everybody else now. The fuck? Or did some, or did a line or two, or did some meth. I done seen meth firsthand what it can do to a person. Right? So,
I
yeah.
saw how brave they got that night. I hadn't been in Florida a week. Went to the pool hall to shoot some pool, had some beers, and we're leaving. And I had never seen this before a day in my life. And these people just out of nowhere started, "What you looking at, boy? What you looking at?" And I'm looking around like, who is they talking to? And they was talking to my cousin getting in the other side of the car. And I'm just, what the hell? And my cousin, get in the car, got me all locked in, and they're addressing the person talking to him. And next thing I know, I'm hearing Trump this, Trump that, boy this, boy that. And my cousin is back, and I'm sitting there going, what the freak? But I know I've been sitting there for 15 minutes waiting for them to stop yelling at each other and get in the car and go. Next thing I know, I'm sliding over to the driver's side of my own damn car, backing the car up, opening up the passenger door and saying, "Get in the damn car, cousin, and shut the fuck up."
See, I thought that I'm thinking that you're talking about a long time ago.
Yeah, no, this was just 2015, 16, 17. He had just got elected in. He hadn't even took office yet. He had just got elected in.
Yeah, I feel like I've been in Florida and I haven't seen exactly that, but I get it, the type of behavior. But this is before Trump ever was the president. But yeah, I'm about to get up out of here. I'm getting a little bit hungry. I need to start dinner. But I want to thank everybody for stopping by. Definitely you, MJ. Your input is definitely always appreciated. Catch me again. We'll catch us again next week. Around the same time, around noonish. If faith lies in confusion. I don't know the exact topic yet. I'm gonna work on it. Starting today. If not, catch me again Wednesday on excuse me. I'm saying Product of the 80s. That's another show. I'm starting to have so many. It's starting to get confusing. Confusing. AAA Podcast Sports. 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll probably be talking about the NBA. Probably a little bit of college basketball. It's March. Almost forgot. So March Madness is starting to start now. The brackets and everything should be picked by the end of the week or next week. So we'll be touching on that. But I want to thank you again, NJ, for stopping by and everybody else. And good night.